Hi, everybody. Welcome to AITA Pod. I'm Danny Vega, joined by the inimitable Shano D.
That's me.
We got a little juicy listener Submish app for you. Remember, timestamps are in the description. They are for every single episode. Shano, do you have any updates for us today?
I have just been, this will probably come out later, but I've just been loving watching the Olympics. Have you been watching?
No, I don't really care for such things.
Oh, gymnastics is so good. That's the only one I've been watching.
The little flippers and stuff.
The little flippers, they're so tiny. Simone Biles is 4'8".
No.
Yeah, you're a whole foot taller than her.
4'8"? That is so small.
So small. Well, gymnasts, like it's a really big advantage for them to be so tiny because it's easier to like flip around, and then like especially with the bars like hitting your feet on the ground. I think they adjust them to your height, but it's so good. She's amazing. I've just been loving watching them all. My sister was a gymnast from age like 5 to 18, so I grew up going to gymnastic meets, and so I used to hold up the little scorecard, so I know a decent amount about gymnastics, and that's my number one fave.
I can't remember how it went now, but there was some Reddit post I seen that was like some crazy, I think what they did was like bounced on the bar when tightening their abs, whatever. It was some kind of heinously dangerous move, and it was promptly banned because it was so freaking dangerous.
Bounced on the bar to tighten their abs.
They would tighten their Yeah, it was crazy. It looked crazy, and I was like, I would definitely die if I did that.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I do like watching when they do the little flips and the spins and whatnot, and I'm a big fan of Nancy Kerrigan. I think that was probably the most interesting thing that's ever happened.
Oh yeah, for skating.
She hired some guy, right, to plug some other girl in the kneecap. That was Nancy Kerrigan.
Other way around. Tanya Harding did that to Nancy Kerrigan.
Oh, I almost feel
Tanya
better
Harding.
About myself.
Yeah,
I'm happy I know the name of the victim.
Yeah. Tanya Harding, like, she had a boyfriend, and I think her boyfriend was kind of like in with a rough crowd, and he was kind of like mobster-ish in a way, not like the mob, but like supposedly they took it upon themselves to do it, and like Tanya wasn't aware of it or something like that. Tanya came from like a trashier part of the world, and like just wasn't, and Nancy Kerrigan was like this like very well-to-do, probably from fucking like New England or something like that, and I think Tanya Harding was a little bit more like trailer trash, and so her makeup always looked like kind of insane, and her outfits were always like she was not like, she didn't fit the mold, but she was amazing. And so it was like Tanya and Nancy were like neck and neck, and then her boyfriend and his friends like supposedly went in and hit Nancy with a lead pipe, I think. Oh. I'm sure I'm getting some of these details wrong, but it was something like that. Pretty juicy though.
So juicy. Yeah, I guess my hot Olympian take is, I don't really think it's a sport. Most of those things they do, those are not sports. Golf, not a sport. A lot of things that people think are sports are not sports. A sport requires direct competition. You have to be competing against someone. What your opponent does must affect you. Otherwise, it's a competition, and I'm not interested in competitions.
Oh, really? I like the competitions. I think I like those better than sports. But then again, it's like sometimes subjective, like with gymnastics, like, yeah, they are getting points deducted and stuff. And like you already start at a certain number depending on the difficulty of your routine. And then if you you have to then execute it. But yeah, it's like kind of up to the judges. So I think like a lot of times with ice skating, there was that whole thing that happened too with like one country cheated. Like there's a lot of corruption when it comes to the judges and stuff. So it's not, sports is a little bit more like black and white, like, you know, soccer and football, because it's like, points. For the most part, like, yes, the refs do have to make calls, but like for the most part, it's like, well, yeah, you didn't score as many points, like as many goals.
Right.
But with the competition, you're relying on these judges, and like, who's to say they're not biased?
I think they are biased. And actually, the reason that I kind of have all these hot takes is because I suck at sports and competitions. But I think it's great that they're doing them. And I have to say I am jealous because they say that the Olympic Village there, they say it's like a crazy fuckfest orgy and they just go crazy.
I know. I don't understand when and where that would be happening. Like, don't you feel like they would just be like focusing on their sport?
I mean, you know, well, eventually they run their little race and whatever, you know.
But I think a lot of times they have multiple competitions throughout those 2 weeks. I mean, it would be amazing if you could go first and then you were done. I mean, I'm sure there are some people that are one and done. I mean, there's a lot of Olympians that are like, there was when the gymnastics did their all around, there was 5 girls on the team and one of them didn't even compete. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess she was an alternate, but she could be fucking all night long.
You know, I think that's interesting. That's a cool aspect of it. And how come that's not a sport?
I guess having sex.
You know,
I don't know. How would you judge that? I guess that would be a competition.
No, rate it. Yeah, go rate it. Do a little judges there. And I'm thinking I want to create more dynamic events. That's the other thing. It's all very predictable. I say you spin a wheel and then we're going to see what you do. I think that's more interesting. So you show up and you better have more fucking train. Oh, shot put. Shot put, what the fuck? I live in Zimbabwe. Well, this is the Olympics, baby. So figure it out.
So buckle up. You're up.
Buckle up. Luge. I've never even been on a luge.
This is the Summer Olympics. What is going
on? Sand luge.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of the most pure competition where all the real men compete, I did stand-up comedy in Albuquerque, folks. Shout out to Sarah Kennedy.
Shout out ALB or whatever.
ABQ we say.
ABQ.
ALB sounds a lot flatter. Sarah Kennedy, she's been on the pod before. We did a pod. She's a lesbian, so I remember asking her about that. It was a great episode. If you guys wanted to trawl in the archives. But yeah, another comic canceled, and so she said, you know, is there someone I can replace?
Get your ass out here.
Proud replacement, baby. Got a headline, my first alternate. Don't Tell show. Thank you. I am the first alternate. Popped out. You know, flew to the old ABQ, had so much fun, so many sweet comics and just wonderful people, great little community she was building out there. Dry Heat Comedy, you guys got to go check out these shows. They're awesome. Sarah produces so many awesome shows. It's like one of those things where like it comes from the top. Like she's a great person, and so everybody there is like fucking awesome. But I was alluding to this on the bonus, Shannon, so I'm excited to tell you this. So I did 4 shows. I headlined at a nightclub, which was cool, and then I did the Dry Heat Comedy Club, and then I did the Don't Tell, and then I did the Comedy Club. And then the last day, there was a Q&A, and that was really fun for me. It was like all the like open micers and like kind of comedy writers asked me questions. So it was very flattering. You know, it was cool. I got to feel like I know some shit. And
cool.
Yeah, it was fun. And it was also
the fact.
Yeah, on Sunday after all the shows.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So it was good. And it woke me up a lot to like what I want to work on. And, you know, like, I don't know, being in that position made me reflect a lot on my skills as a comedian. You know, I think I'm a witty writer, but I have other stuff to work on, accents, characters, storytelling, literally every other thing that's not witty writing. So anyway, afterwards, she goes, I DJ. Sarah goes, I DJ. Do you want to come? Everybody usually goes after, and we just go to this bar, the Red Door Bar in downtown Albuquerque, and it's a short walk away. So we walk. I'm in Albuquerque. I've been there. I was there a couple years ago. It's just not really a place I've been. Open the door to the bar, and I'm looking at this guy directly in the eyes, and I go, I know this guy. And it was someone I went to college with, Sean, over 10 years ago, staring at me at this bar at like 2 p.m. in Albuquerque.
Wow. What are the chances of that?
Insane!
That's insane. He's living there?
He's living there, and he gave me a tour, and I got to see his condo, and we just caught up, and like it was good. We broed out. We've been texting since, and like he's a really good dude, and he's like always been very supportive of me. Like checked in, listened to the pod and stuff. So yeah, it was just
amazing.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I was just saying if maybe I knew him too. Kind of sounds familiar.
He was in our kind of circles, but yeah, so he's like a dentist now, and it was just
shout out.
Yeah, shout out to the teeth fixers, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really great trip, and I had so much fun. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, comedy is just like, it was such a fun adventure. I didn't want to leave my comfort zone. I had all these freaking weekend plans, but I was so happy I did it because I just had a damn blast, and I tried some new material. I've actually really developed. I mean, you know, my stand-up special is Real Men Are 5'8", but
yes,
I didn't have a lot of material about tall guys, and so now I have like 5 minutes that I finally come up. It took so long, I could not come up with any material about it, so I finally have some tall material, which is what people expect when you name your special Real Men Are 5'8".
True, very true. Well, that's awesome. Sounds like a nice little impromptu, successful weekend.
Yep, and even though I did have to spend quite a fair chunk of change on ye old airplane tickets, I'll tell you guys, for all my dreamers out there chasing their passion, that comedy money sure hit different, folks. Woo! That is not the same $100 bill. You know what I mean?
Oh, you got paid?
I got paid. Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah. I know. When you get paid for doing what you love, it is just magic. It's like I would have done that for free. You didn't even know that.
Right? That was like when you first started the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, we'll do it for free. I know. I like so many of my actor friends that like this one girl in particular that's like repped by both of my agent and my manager. Like she'll turn stuff down because she's like, it's just not enough money. And I'm like, I mean, it depends, of course, on what it is. Like, if it's a role that's like, this is not worth it. It's not going to benefit me in any way. But all the network stuff I've ever done, like, I'm never even thinking about the money. I'm always just thinking about how it's like an amazing opportunity. I get to be in a scene with amazing people, or like I get this for my reel, or this will help me, whatever. Like, I would have done it all for free. Like, I just am not at that level in my career where I'm like worried about how much money I'm making off of that, you know? I guess we're just so used to like spending so much money on our careers that we're, I don't know, not really ever expecting anything in return. But you know what? You got to change that mindset.
Well, it's always a balance, you know. I mean, I think you're nailing it. Where it's like, what is the upside? What is the downside? You know.
Yeah,
I'm happy.
Pros and cons.
To headline. I'm happy to break even. You know, because it's always a good skill check. You know, it always makes me work really hard. I feel motivated. It's the Danny show. So if Danny doesn't bring it, it's not a good show. So it always, you know, it's my dream to do it well and to do it great. And so to force that on myself is a gift, really, for me at this point.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. Good for you.
Thank you.
Taking over the ABQ.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm hoping to go back probably next year. It was so fun. So great crowds. Really. And by the way, did you know this? Because I always thought ABQ is the same as Phoenix. It's a little cooler there. It's the high desert. It wasn't as hot. It was only like 90.
Oh, nice. In the middle of July or the end of July. That's pretty damn good. Yeah, it's a little higher
Phoenix.
up, huh?
Yeah, it's a little higher. I checked Phoenix because I was like, how much? Phoenix is 104. I was like, that's a pretty. I know some of you are like, that's insanely hot. That's literally hell. Both of those temperatures are hell. But like, honestly, 90 is not super fun. But like 104 is like, you can't go outside. It's like dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, it's a pretty big difference.
When we were there last year, it was like 118, I think.
Oh, God. Brutal.
But that really wasn't that bad. I mean, we had good AC and like pools and stuff, so
yeah, as long it's like it's
okay.
It's like don't touch the ground. The ground is lava. That's basically Phoenix for
the
4 months of the
lava.
year. The floor is lava.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Should we get this thing started?
Got
any updates? Let's do it, guys. We got a listener Submish episode brought to you by Shannon Industries. She put this one together. I'm super excited about it, folks. Our second story of the day. AITA for not allowing my husband's brother and his wife to use my husband's name for their children. Oh my God. Another trip to Nametown, people. Shannon's the mayor.
Yeah.
But first, folks, please rate, review, subscribe. Join us on Patreon, patreon.com/AITA pod. AITA. For telling my boyfriend that I won't listen to him complain about his job. My boyfriend and I are both in our early mid-20s. I live together. My boyfriend and I are both in our early mid-20s. We live together and have been dating for a few years. Our relationship is amazing, but there's one thing I can't stand. My boyfriend complaining about his job. He grew up in a cushier background than me, followed his parents' career path. He chose his major in college because he didn't know what he wanted to do and just picked what his parents do, and is still working at the first job he got out of college. And he's miserable. At this point, it's been years of him complaining about his job every day, and I just can't take it anymore. I came from a background where I had to work a lot harder to get where I am. I have an entrepreneurial spirit, and after college, switched paths a few times. I've always been a go-getter and not afraid to take a leap of faith and put in the work to make it happen. I run my own freelance business and have also just started a search for a 9-to-5. My boyfriend constantly complains about work and admits he's depressed because of it. While he likes it pays great, it doesn't give him any sort of passion and purpose and fills him with anxiety. We've had the same talk over and over where he complains about his job and says he doesn't know what to do. I've suggested therapy, looking for new jobs within his field, taking a career leap to a different field, going back to school, etc. I know he's just looking to vent and doesn't want solutions, but it's so frustrating listening to him complain when he won't take action, especially when he has so much money to lean on and support from family, but he won't change. Meanwhile, I've taken leaps of faith many times without the same amount of financial means, familial support. He's been supportive of my career journey, and I want to be supportive of his, but it's gotten to the point where his complaining causes us to fight, and I've told him I just can't listen to him complain about his job anymore unless he's going to do something about it. I think the added layer of me being on a job search right now has made my bandwidth smaller when dealing with the complaints. I've suggested if he merely wants to vent, then therapy would be a good place for that. Otherwise, I'm here to help when it comes to action. AITA.
Oh, this one's tough. I mean, because, you know, your partner should definitely be the person that you can go to with, like, you know, when you're feeling low about your career and life decisions and things like that. And I also do understand the other point of view that it can feel like a broken record, but I remember this happening, just like, I think it happens with me a lot where I'm like, like maybe a couple times a year, I get like really, really down about like the industry and things like that. And so Max has to be there to pick me up. So I get it from that point of view where, yeah, like I probably do sound a little bit like, okay, you keep kind of being sad about the same things, but it's hard with career stuff. Like career stuff can be really hard because I feel like we wrap our identity around it a lot. And I mean, I think at least for creatives, like, you know, we really wrap our identity up into it and see our success. Like, I really do think like a lot of our like self-confidence can come from like directly about how well we're doing. And honestly, that's probably everyone, really, truly, with every career, I would say. Maybe not everyone, but then also, like, I've been on the other end too, where like Max was like always upset about like the weight he had gained or just like being out of shape. And then it was just like years and years and years of him being so upset about it. And it, like at one point I was just like, oh my God, like, can you stop eating as much? Like, stop fucking hounding the snacks late at night. Like, so I definitely also understand that too, where I am like, okay, like enough is enough. Like you have to do something about it at this point, or I can't hear it again.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be very fatiguing and taxing, and honestly, it just gets into a point of unhinged. It's like I have to sit here now and just kind of deal with whatever problem it is that you're harping on again and again and again. Obviously, a little bit is normal, and you know, I think with you took us to an extreme point, because I do think acting is probably the most inconsistent career, right? I mean, you're basically going out to fish, and most of the time you're not going to be catching any fish. I mean, you were just saying, right? You're happy to catch a fish. It could even be a small fish. You just like fishing, essentially. I mean, you like to be an actor.
Yes.
And that's very hard. And so I think that can lead to, you know, communication issues, compatibility issues, because if Max didn't value, you know, that, you know, when you did get your wins, celebrate your wins with you and help be there for you in like the dry spells, etc. I think, and I think the identification part speaks to me in this issue, because this is a person who it sounds like has a lot of money. That's just kind of my interpretation. It sounds like, and this is a very weak reason to pursue a career, and it's a little frightening for me. I would say this is going on red flag. Why do you do what you do? Well, it's what my parents did. That's not really a good reason, man. Like, I want to hear, it's just, that sounds like a recipe for disaster, because what that is it's not self-aware. It's kind of unthinking repetition, and it's like, you don't want to be in this position for that long, right? Like, I'm so fortunate because I had a lot of shitty jobs, but I always worked how I wanted to work, which is I like producing. I like creative shit. I like to make my own shit. That's the truth. And, you know, fortunately, I've hit a beautiful balance in my current role, and like, I like my job. I like what I do. And it's not perfect. It's not being a professional stand-up, but it's in that vicinity. And I think that it sounds like this person is in this thing of like, I want to make a shit ton of money. I want to have a huge savings account, but I'm literally just miserable. Like, this is no way to live your life.
Totally. And when you are just doing something that your parents did without having like your own dreams or ambitions, I don't think you could find much joy in it anyway, just because it's not a passion of yours. Like, yeah, the cushiness of it, the big paycheck, like, that sounds amazing, but like, at what cost?
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people blindly chase money. And look, there are people, I'm not saying that money is a bad thing to chase. And there are people, I've met people who just go, I simply just want to make more money. But to me, that is a very short-sighted mindset. And I think it comes from a place of not having enough money, because I think, could be wrong, but most people, they earn that money, they reach comfort, and then you will find that money isn't actually the key thing anymore, but rather time. Time becomes more valuable, and things like having a good workplace environment, right? Because, and let me say this, and I do feel for this OP. We don't know the source of it. It sounds like he just doesn't enjoy this job. But a toxic boss, one motherfucker, can ruin just dozens of people's lives, because it's someone you're forced. You have to have a relationship with this person. And there's a lot of sad people out there who use their job as a way to exert power over others, to be emotionally manipulative, and all the things we're always talking about, all these toxic things. And guess what? You can't break up with them because that's your fucking livelihood. Horrible.
Yeah. It's horrible. The other thing too that she said, like, she keeps kind of mentioning about how, like, she took the leap of faith and she was able to do, you know, X, Y, and Z, like, without having, like, you know, without being a Nepo baby or without having, like, a cushier lifestyle to, like, fall back on, but she still had that drive and that, like, entrepreneurial kind of attitude to take those risks. And I've really just found it throughout my life, like, I feel like a lot of times it really has to do with, like, how you were raised, and to, like, to, like, feel brave enough to do things like that. And for example, like, just throughout the, you know, years that I've been out here, like, trying, a lot of I've had friends from home or acquaintances being like, oh my God, I would love to do that. And I'm like, just do it. Because, like, that's what I did. I was just like, I'm just doing it. But, like, my parents just raised me to spread my wings and fly. Like, my mom always said, like, I gave my children wings, I need to let them fly. And so, but a lot of people, I think, are not raised in that way. They're kind of raised, like, they are told, like, oh yeah, you're going to stay in the same town and get a good job and make sure it's a good job with good security and benefits and things like that. And so they don't, even though they might have the financial backing to be able to do that stuff, like, for some reason they are not able to, like, take that leap off of the nest, right, and, like, really go for it. And I think you can absolutely overcome that and, like, change that sort of pattern. But I do think that a lot of times people are just, like, afraid.
Yeah, they're afraid. They don't have the confidence. They don't know that everything is going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, they also might be caught in this kind of cycle of just this feedback loop and this familiarity. You know, it's scary to not have a job. It really is. And a lot of people kind of build their identity too on, like, material possessions and things like this nature. So the more you do that, the more you're kind of just trapped in this, what do they call it? Golden handcuffs. You know, it sucks.
Oh, totally.
It sucks. And people don't want to do it. They don't want to grind. They don't want to start grinding on the fact that, like, yeah, you're going to have to send out resumes and cover letters. You're going to have to go to networking events. You're going to have to hustle to get a good job. But is a good job worth it? Of course it's worth it, people. Having a good job that pays decently and isn't making your life a living nightmare is fucking huge. And I think
it's a huge thing for your self-esteem and your confidence and your own, like, self-worth, because your whole identity should be wrapped up in your job, but when you're feeling really passionate and good and, like, you're making even just a difference in, could even be your own world, like, you feel good about yourself, and that is, like, priceless.
100%. It truly is. I mean, feeling connected to a community, to some kind of meaning, I think is absolutely vital for people. And I really don't think anybody is just practical. I think the idea that, you know, we need to be absolutely shrewdly practical and we just need a job that pays really well, blah, 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 is a very scarcity mindset attitude that will get you into a bind. Obviously, I know many of you are struggling out there and the economy fucking sucks right now, but
totally,
once you reach a certain point, and they're in their mid-20s, so it's not at all surprising to me. I mean, who among us didn't have a horrible job in our mid-20s? Pretty much comes with the territory. But I do have a friend, and I've thought about this a lot. My friend Dana, I've been meaning to have her on the pod forever. She goes, she actually said it's a deal breaker for her. If a guy, she goes, look, Danny, I'm in my mid 30s. If your job is constantly causing you problems, the answer is get a new job. You have a resume, you have experience, you're gonna have to figure it out. And I'm like, and once she said that, I was like, it sounds harsh, but it's true. If you're gonna complain about your job all day, like, go get another job. Like, you're a smart, capable person. Like, figure it out. Like, go get more educated. Like, there are ways out of this. And I do think, not saying he has to do that, but for the sake of the relationship, there is an amount of venting that does cross the repetition, and the amount of it does cross the other person. It's too much.
Yeah. No, totally. And I do think, like, it could be harsh when she's saying, like, all right, well, if you want help with how to get out of this, then great. But I'm kind of done listening to you vent, because I can definitely relate with that, with like girlfriends in the past that just constantly had same boy issues with the same goddamn guy. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, how many times do I have to tell you that, like, you're worth more than what he's giving you? And at this point, it's hard for me to keep hearing it, because you just keep getting hurt and you're not taking my advice. So that's all the advice I can give. I have nothing left to give. So I think that is harsh, but it's kind of fair.
For me, this is the number one thing to use therapy for. I mean, that's my own personal just thing with therapy, which is I am so emotional, stressed, going through something that I would feel bad putting it on my friends or family, because it's going to be repetitive and just exhausting. And that's, to me, that this is a great use of therapy, is like, I don't want to dump this on the people I love. Get fucking therapy, bro. Like, if you're not going to fix the problem, then get therapy. And I know some problems are intractable. So, like, you got to be careful. You got to be careful, because, like, other people have feelings too. And it's fucking exhausting to always hear about how exhausted you are,
Yeah. And also, when your partner is going through something that's stressful, like, and not going well, I mean, I definitely take that on too. Like, I always like have to be like, okay, like, he just needs to vent. He's not asking you to fix the problem, so, like, it's okay. You can kind of, like, don't, because then I start getting really stressed for him. I'm like, oh my God, like, how can we get out of this issue? And I'm like, there's nothing you can do but just listen. He just needs you to hear him and, like, hear his problems. But it's hard for me to not, like, take it on. So I can see how she's also like, yeah, well, like, it's stressing me out and making me feel bad too. But if you want to come up with some action plans, I'm happy to help with that. Otherwise, it's hurting us.
No, and that's it. You're nailing it. It's hurting us. And that's what I'm talking about, is, mate, watch out where you're pouring these heavy emotions.
Yeah.
It matters. Like, and this is a very valid boundary for her to set. Like, dog, I just don't want to hear about it anymore. We got a comment here. Senorita Gorita 22.
Our number one commenter.
Good old Rachel.
Shout out.
Soft YTA, she writes. Me and Rachel fight over text all the time. We've literally never agreed on anything. I am biased. Really? Yeah. I'm also in a position where my job doesn't give me passion, stresses me out. I'm aware that I make more money here than I could in other jobs. And I've chosen to take stress over stress. Life is fucking hard, especially as a young adult. It's common to tough it out in a job you dislike while you're figuring out your figure goals. I'm with you there. It also can be wise to stay in your first job for 1 to 2 years to show future employers you're not job hopping. True. Quoting, she writes, I know he's just looking to vent and doesn't want to be given actual solutions. Unquote. He knows what the solution is and maybe needs more time, even in jobs we don't like, and it can be comfortable and scary to move on. Soft YTA, because as a general statement, yes, it's annoying to hear someone complain all the time, but my best friend listens to me complain about my job all the time and just lets me vent. Maybe it annoys her, but she loves me and lets me vent. But YTA, because at the end of the day, everyone has things in life they're going to complain about, and you either support and love them enough to let them vent, or decide their lifestyle lack of drive to get out of a bad situation isn't for you. In this economy and job market, I can't blame a young adult for being in a job they hate because of the financial stability. Money's real. Just tune him out when he complains. Ooh, Rachel. I'm not quite with you. And I don't know. I'm telling you. And I feel like this is kind of what you're saying, Shannon. You take on that stress. You take on that stress, right? When I was listening to Dora, I was quote unquote tuning her out. It didn't fucking matter. I can't bring it to 0%. If I'm actually engaging with her and letting that emotion, it will enter me, and I can't. It's like I can't truly tune someone out. I will empathize with them, and it'll make me fucking take on what they're feeling.
Well, and then multiply that by 10 because it's your partner that you love, and it's also a part of your situation too. Like partners usually, like, you know, their financial situation is oftentimes your financial situation. Like you're a partnership, even if you don't have the same bank account, like, you know, you're a team. So you are going to take that on because it's like, oh my God, okay, well, this is my future too. Like this could be the future father of my children, and we need to figure this out.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And like Rachel, I think it's awesome that you have a best friend who is willing to listen to your events. But the reality is it doesn't make someone wrong or bad to say, I have a boundary and I simply cannot handle this much negative emotion. I am not here to hear you. There's not an unlimited venting pass available. I'm not offering that, and I will never offer that.
Yeah, I guess. Like I feel like if like, you know, when I have these like little bit of career issues every now and then, I would be upset if all of a sudden he was like, okay, you need to stop venting to me about this. Cause I'm like, okay, well, you know, this is a tough career, but it's not like I'm venting about the exact same thing every time. Like it's kind of new issues, and I'm making like, you know, some strides and like changes in my career over the past years we've been together. Like they're normally a little bit of different issues, but with the same undertone. So I do see where she's coming from of like, yeah, your people in your life are going to have issues. And I don't think it is fully fair to just like cut them off. But I do think her being like, let's look into solutions and not just complaining can make sense to me.
Yeah, well, I mean,
she's not cutting the conversation off, but she is like, let's solve this.
I'm willing to help, but I can only handle so much venting. I mean, look, I agree with you, Shano. I think there's going to be in any relationship where there's intimacy and intensity, like a primary partnership, of course you're going to have to vent. Life is hard at times, you know, but when it's the same problem over and over, I think it is an unreasonable, I would even say it's a toxic expectation to think that you can just onslaught every single fucking day, complain to that person. Like they're allowed to have boundaries too. You're becoming the thing that is causing them stress. Like that's real too. So
yes. And if you don't want to get a therapist, spread it out amongst different family members and friends then. This doesn't have to be your primary person that you're complaining to every day. Give your brother a call on the way home from the office and unload on him for 10 minutes, and then switch it up every couple of days, switch to a new person.
No, seriously, you've got it, because that shows you have to be aware of like when you're dumping negative emotion on people, like it can be really hard. It's crazy hard on some people. You know, it all depends. So you got to find the right people to do it. AITA for telling my boyfriend I won't listen to him complain about his job. I'm saying absolutely not. Am I saying he's the asshole? Yes, because he is not getting that, like, you are doing something to people when you vent at them. And, like, if you're willing to be there for their events and you have a good equilibrium, great. But, like, I think this guy is, like, fucking just dumping on her and being like, come on, have some empathy.
Yeah, maybe, NTI, I'd say. But I get both sides, I do. But I think we gave some good solutions.
Absolutely. Guys, please rate, review, subscribe. Join us on Patreon, patreon.com/AITA pod. Over 200 bonus episodes, every single episode ad-free, vibrant Discord community. Join us. Alrighty, here we go. AITA for not allowing my husband's brother and his wife to use my husband's name for their children. Shanna, were you going to read this?
I'm a 34-year-old woman, and I lost my temper when my husband's brother's wife said she wanted to use my husband's name for their baby if it were a boy. For context, ever since my husband and I started dating, she has exhibited strange, sneaky behavior. I'm 2 years younger than she is, but married to the older brother. She would make comments like, "Since you came along, John doesn't hang out with me, his brother, and my sister like he used to. He won't go to do anything we invite him to unless you come too." She went out of her way to exclude me from things like the time they took the whole family out to dinner and handed out t-shirts saying, "You're going to be a grandma, grandpa, uncle, aunt, etc.," but purposefully didn't get one for me, leaving me feel embarrassed and excluded. She didn't invite me to her bachelorette party, but invited other girls who weren't in the bridal party. She would make comments when my husband bought me gifts saying things like, "I'm going to tell my husband to buy me those earrings too, but with bigger diamonds." She constantly compared herself to me, and she said she wished her husband would do the things my husband does, but he isn't a planner or romantic. She was extremely over the top with my husband, hugging on him for no reason, telling him how much she loves him and he's the best big brother ever. Mind you, this is not her brother, her brother-in-law. 7 years ago, when she and her husband were expecting their first child, she started making comments about naming the baby John after my husband. I said that was extremely weird, but let it go since we were just dating at the time, and I didn't feel I had enough to stand on. I did, however, address this with him, and he also thought it was weird, but didn't want to cause an issue. They didn't find out the baby's sex, but they gave birth to a little girl, so it was irrelevant. Fast forward to last year, she got pregnant again and directly mentioned to me that she wants to name the baby John after my husband. I was instantly pissed and told her this was absolutely insane. I asked her how her husband felt about naming their child after her older brother. She assured me that he was okay with it and liked it. I asked why not name the kid after himself, and he said he didn't like his name. I went off on my husband, telling him they are insane. I can't and won't be with someone who has their nephew named after them for no reason at all. It would make me and probably everyone else wonder if it was his kid. My husband swore he had nothing to do with this decision and wasn't sure why they were doing this. My husband is not one to cause issues or be confrontational, but I am. So I addressed the issue twice, once with my brother and his brother and his wife, which they continued on the stance that they love the name and wanted to use it for a kid if it was a boy. I expressed how extremely weird and uncomfortable that is, but they didn't seem to back down. I needed to clear the air with her because this was really bothering me, even after they found out they were having a girl. I had a one-on-one with, I had a one-on-one with her and expressed how ridiculous this whole thing was, how uncomfortable it made me feel, how I would never do anything like that to her, and that it's absolutely not normal. I told her to think of it like me using her husband's name, and she said she didn't care. I asked why she didn't consider her sister's or sister's husband's name, and she said she didn't like it. I told her that she and I could not have a relationship going forward, but I can be cordial to keep the peace. She kept apologizing, saying she didn't realize I was upset and she thought we were like sisters. I told her I do not feel the same way at all, and I am insulted that she would not only once but twice tried to use my husband's name for both of her kids. Why is that the only name she thinks of when she's pregnant? They ended up having another girl again, so they didn't use his name. AITA.
Wow.
Oh, and also they have no kids of their own. Oh, I'm exhausted.
So strange. Okay, so I think
There's a lot to unpack here.
There really is. And okay, so Opie's 34. She lost her temper. We find out at the beginning. Strange, sneaky behavior. Ever since the husband and her started dating, strange, sneaky behavior. She's 2 years younger.
Mm-hmm.
The sister,
but she's with the oldest brother.
She's with the oldest brother, John.
Mm-hmm.
And the sister-in-law is the wife to one of the other brothers, right?
Yep.
Okay. So her first sin, so just trying to unpack what the fuck this relationship is is it seems like she excluded OP. And OP says, right, everybody got a shirt, but not OP. But then...
Yeah, which is not okay.
Not okay.
You can't get her "you're gonna be an aunt" shirt, you fucking bee.
She didn't invite me to her bachelorette party, but invited other girls who weren't in her bridal party. She would make comments when my husband bought me gifts. Things like, I'm going to tell my husband to buy me those earrings too, but with bigger diamonds.
Diamonds.
And she constantly compared herself to me and said she wished her husband would do the things my husband does, but he isn't a planner or romantic. So, that one isn't really a sin necessarily. But I think hugging him for no reason, how much she loves him, and he's the best big brother ever. But it's not her brother. So here's my theory on what's happening here. We were just talking about this, so you might roll your eyes. But I kind of feel like she's being gaslit. All these little things, they're nothing. They're all nothings, and they all live in that land of plausible deniability, right? It's like, she didn't get you a shirt because, like, you're relatively new to the family, Oh, well, yeah, she was just saying she wanted to buy those earrings because she liked your earrings, but they're very subtly saying the same thing to OP. I will fucking step on your boundaries again and again. Just a little bit. I'm just going to put my little toe over the fucking line to let you know I'm fucking dominating you.
She also seems like a little territorial with like her place in the family, where she's like, seems like she was the first in-law, so like she's like, and he's been my brother for so long now, and like he doesn't hang out with us anymore unless you come too. Like she's definitely being very not inclusive. She's trying to mark her territory. She's trying to prove that she knows OP's husband better than she does. She's definitely doing microaggressions.
Wait, were you getting that one? She knows him better?
Like, it seems like she's kind of being like, well, like John doesn't really hang out with me and my, his brother and my sister anymore like he used to. He won't go to anything we invite him to unless you come. Like, it just sort of seems like she's like giving off that energy of like, well, I was here first and I've known him longer than you and he's been my big brother longer. Like, she just seems like she's marking her territory on this entire family and feeling threatened by like a new woman coming in and like for some reason not wanting her included in things.
Exactly. I think threatened. I think this constant comparison, like, she really is trying to like push on OP and push OP's buttons. And it's subtle little things. And this is yet another kind of thing just to fuck with OP. And, of course, taken in isolation, everyone's like, well, whatever. It's like just a name. It's not that big of a deal, but it's the same thing again and again. And it's this bizarre kind of boundary crossing, which is your husband is actually like closer to me. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, it's like, I know him better than you.
No, and I was just trying to unpack exactly what part of the submission pointed to that, because I agree with you completely. I just didn't know if we had it as like a hard fact or it was more of a vibe we were picking up on.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know that like the baby naming thing, like unless there really is some kind of weird, because she does say at some point like, well, he's not as romantic as your husband. Like, I'm kind of wondering if she's like got the hots for her brother-in-law in some weird way. I do, however, have to say like that I think it is a little bit unhinged the way OP like responded to all this, but I guess it's more of like the history behind it all. But like, I actually really don't think that it's that crazy to want to name a kid after your sibling.
No, well,
like, she's
none
like,
of that.
This is not normal, and how dare you, and this is ridiculous. I would never do this to you. This is so uncomfortable. Like, she's taking it way too personally, and she even says at one point, I can't and won't be with someone who has their nephew named after them for no reason at all. Well, what do you mean? Like, couldn't the reason just be that they really love your brother and they also happen to like that name?
But
She's really going overboard. She doesn't want to be with her husband anymore because of that. Like, I know
that's getting ridiculous.
Being dramatic, but like her reaction to this and the fact that they had girls both times and you're still blowing this out of the water. I guess it's just the history behind it all.
That's it. It's the history. This is just yet another move. And OP is consistently made to feel like she is less than, like her feelings don't matter. And it's a million subtle things. This is what gaslighting is, right? It's never obvious. That's where it all lives. So I do agree with you. I mean, obviously it's cartoonish to be like, I'm going to leave you because it sounds insane. I mean, that's why it's gaslighting. It sounds crazy. I'm going to leave you because my sister-in-law is naming her kid after you. It's like, ma'am, like what are you talking about? But I think this person is really making her feel very encroached upon again and again and again.
Yeah,
Atlantis,
I agree.
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, finish.
Atlantis Sky writes, YTA, you don't own a name. You can't forbid anyone to use a name. It doesn't matter that you think it's weird. Your husband can go see and do things with his family regardless if you go. You cannot forbid him to spend time with family unless you go too. But that's not what was being said. That is not what was being said, right? What was said is that the sister-in-law said, quote, since you came along, John doesn't hang out with me, his brother, and my sister like he used to. He won't go to anything unless we invite him to, unless you come too. That is not what is being said here. And it's a big difference. It's subtle, but it's big. The premise is not that OP is forcing the husband and limiting what he's allowed to do. It's not what it is at all. She's saying, the sister-in-law is saying he doesn't want to come unless his fucking wife or girlfriend comes. No shit, Sherlock. That's fucking normal. That's normal. She's part of the family. So really that statement, even though it seems so innocent, is really more saying like, yeah, ever since you've come, just things have been a little different. What are you really saying? Right? Emotionally, it's the same thing again and again. It's kind of like, you're not welcome. You're not really part of the family. We're closer. Me and your husband are closer. And these are subtle encroachments that she just keeps doing again and again.
Yep.
This comment goes on. He has known his family longer than he has known you. You do not have to be invited to things his family does. They clearly don't like you. Exactly. That's exactly what sister-in-law is trying to send to OP. That's exactly what she's doing. Nobody likes you. That's the subtle messaging that she's throwing. You are a 34-year-old woman throwing the tantrum of a 2-year-old because of what? Because you're under some weird-ass assumption that your husband, and only your husband, is allowed to be named John. I don't know you, but based on this, I understand why they don't invite you to things. I wouldn't even invite you to a shit kicker with your exhausting ass.
Oof. All right, guys. Be a little kinder in the comments here.
I think this is a misread.
He responds to this, though.
Oh, shit.
She said, firstly, I'm using the name John as an example for privacy reasons. I never said I own the name, nor did I stop my husband from seeing or doing things with his family. He's a grown man who is free to do whatever he wants. Knowing his family longer than me isn't that the case in every marriage, but when you get married, your spouse and your children take priority over everything else. You are correct. It is obvious they do not like me, and I have never thrown a tantrum over a 2-year-old. This discussion I had with her was before she gave birth. I even made it clear to her that I had nothing against the kids. My issue was solely with her wanting to use my husband's name after I gave her a baby name book with 3 million names in it. My husband is not her brother, but her brother-in-law. So yes, I find it weird that she would want to use his name. I'm okay with being the asshole, but I'm not okay with her doing this just to piss me off and make me uncomfortable, which I'm pretty sure was her reasoning. Atlantis Sky says back, it isn't about you. You're not the main character. She's allowed to name her child whatever she wants. If you're pissed off and uncomfortable with it, that is a you problem. It isn't your child, and isn't your name. If your husband okay with it, then it's fine. And then she said, my husband was also very uncomfortable with them using his name and they didn't seem to care. Okay, well, that's interesting because also I'm like, why is this all getting blamed on the woman that's pregnant? Like, also her brother wants to name the kid the name. So like, I just feels like, I don't know. I'm so confused by this one because I'm kind of like, I think they're both reacting. Like, I think what the sister-in-law is doing is pretty nuts with all of the evidence that she's done towards her new sister-in-law, OP. But also, it's like, why is this all getting blamed on the sister-in-law? Why she wants to name her John? Obviously, the brother is in on it too. Why does it make him uncomfortable to be named? Like, wouldn't you be honored by that? Like, the dynamics in this situation is just baffling to me. I'm so tired.
Yeah, for me, this
throwing
one
me through a loop.
Obviously, I'm on OP's side a little, and I the worst I could say about OP is that maybe they're picture painting. It's plausible, but I think OP is dealing with someone who is manipulative and gaslighting them. This to me reads textbook, and this is just yet another part of their campaigns to fuck with OP. And it's been a clear message since day one. She's saying it out loud. I'm going to tell my husband to buy me those earrings too, but with bigger diamonds. They like me more than me. I know your own husband better than you. I'm better than you. I deserve more. You deserve less.
I know, but you think that this woman is so unhinged that she would go as far as to name her own child after the brother-in-law just to piss off the sister-in-law? Yes. I don't think so. That seems crazy to me that you would go that far out of your way to have a child who's potentially going to be alive for 100 years and you're just naming him this name for what? To get back at this sister-in-law?
It's not to get back. It's because this is the only thing she knows how to do. This is the only thing she knows how to do is dominate.
You think this is just how she operates?
Exactly. This is how she operates. Perfectly. It's the only way in her defense. It's the only way she knows how to operate. That's it.
I know, but I also think that OP is taking this way too personally. And she's like, I would never make you uncomfortable like this. I would never put you in this position. I really don't think it's about her, though. Like, I kind of do think OP is making herself way too much of the main character here. I kind of agree with Alana Skye in that regards, where it's like, this isn't about you. She's probably not even thinking about you. Maybe she's got a fucking thing for your husband, but I still don't think it's necessarily about you.
Maybe she's got a thing for your husband, but you don't think that's about her? You don't think that's relevant?
I mean...
Oh, sorry, I made out with Max. It's got nothing to do with you, Shannon.
Well, you're just collateral damage.
No.
It could have been any girl. It could have been any girl.
Yeah. Well, maybe we don't see eye to eye. To me, this is just this textbook. To see you a little bit, it's not really about the name. This has nothing to do with the name. In isolation, the name is it is what it is. This is this person, this sister has been dead set on making OP feel like shit, and she will continue to do that. This is yet another battle that she wants to fight, and this is how she rolls. Yeah.
And I feel for you, OP. I think I'm going ESH, honestly.
AITA for not allowing my husband's brother and his wife to use my husband's name for their children. Well, on the title literal, I would say, yeah, ESH. But in terms of this situation, OP, I think you're being gaslit, and I'm sorry that you're involved with this very complicated sister-in-law. And I'm absolutely at NTA, and she is.
Oh, wow. It's just crazy.
All right.
The first reactions were so different on the thread. You should write her a comment because I think she needs some support.
I'll write that up. Guys, please rate, review, subscribe. Join us on Patreon, patreon.com/AITA pod. We got over 200 bonus episodes, every single episode ad-free. Come on, join us, folks. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this thing up. AITA for not wrapping my pads in TP so that no blood is visible in the trash bin. I, 22F, just moved home after graduating college. Mom is in menopause, and my only sister has an autoimmune disorder, so neither of them get their period. I share a bathroom with my older brother, and I just got off my period the other day. When I I dispose of my pads, I roll them up into themselves so they're stuck in little cylinders. They're never just splayed open in the trash, which, by the way, I don't really see an issue with either, but anyways. Unless my period is super heavy, there's usually no blood visible because it's been rolled up. But even when there is, it's not a crime scene by any means. My mother came to me today requesting that I wrap my used pads up with multiple layers of TP so that no blood is visible when the trash is open. It has a lid and bag inside. When I asked why, she answered, quote, "No one wants to see your disgusting vagina blood." She compared it to leaving poop in the trash. I told her... What?
Oh.
I told her that she was being unfair and honestly very insensitive since she doesn't get her period anymore. She's making me feel like a gross animal in my own house because I'm the only one with a period. I told her that I would do as she said, but I think her attitude toward menstruation comes from internalized misogyny. She got really mad and said I was pulling stuff out of my ass and being defensive. Again, I told her I'll do it, but finding a little bit of period blood disgusting, especially when you've gone through it yourself, is weird to me. Sure, you don't want blood outside of the bin or on surfaces, but on a roll-up pad inside covered trash, it's just a natural part of life and nothing to be ashamed of. I don't get it. AITA.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. This is definitely reading like internalized misogyny because I personally don't understand. Like when people cut themselves, like, you know, on their arm or something and it's bleeding, nobody calls that nasty. Like, yeah, maybe I'm a little squeamish or something, or, ooh, that looks gruesome, that looks brutal. I mean, because I guess it's a cut as compared to the blood coming out of your vagina. But just because it's coming out of your vagina, it's like nasty. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my only response to that, to try to see any other side, is that if I see blood in a trash can, then I got to think about someone's vagina, which is kind of weird because I'm like, obviously that's from that, seeing the pad. But, and I think if it was an open trash can, that's as far as I could really go. But the fact that it's not even a fucking open trash can, I'm like, I'm sorry, what's the issue here?
Yeah, exactly. There's a closed bin to it and you're wrapping it up already. Like, what the fuck?
It has a closed lid. Who gives a fuck? Stop looking in the trash. That's my solution.
Literally, yeah. What are you doing digging through the trash? And it almost feels like maybe the brother was like, maybe like said something to his mom, like, hey, can you tell whatever, and then she's like relaying it. But I just think no one wants to see your disgusting vagina blood is like, so I don't know, that's really really weird to say to your daughter. Like, you just shouldn't. It just really is like continuing that awful stereotype where we should be ashamed of our periods, you know? And it's like, yeah, I'm not going to be like flinging my tampon around for everyone to see, but it sounds like she's doing everything that she can. She's wrapping it around. She's putting it into the bin. Like, unless I just like, I think it is internalized misogyny because I'm just sick of like men thinking that women's periods are disgusting when it's like, that's what brings you into this world. Like, that's how we're all here. Like, it's just like, we have so much shame around it our whole lives. We always have. Like, it's just something that we've, you know, if we ever get it on our pants or something like that, like, it's super embarrassing. It's something that we have been made to feel shameful about. And the fact that a mom who went through it is now like comparing it to leaving poop in a trash can, like, no, honey, no, that's not a proper comparison here. And I do not think it is okay to make your daughter feel more shame about it that she already probably gets from society.
I'm sorry to hear that. I don't think I have genuinely, like, I don't think I really internalized how much shame is around it. Because I don't know, honestly, and you guys know I'm like, have said so many problematic things, but I never understood the like people being repulsed by it, like girls being like, I'm on my period, I don't know if we can have sex. I'm like, oh well, I want to. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
It never bothered me.
When it does bother men, I'm always like, ugh, you just went down a peg in my book. It's like, really? You're lame. Grow the fuck up.
Yeah, a little bit of blood. I mean, there was one girl that I was with, and she honestly bled like, I would say about the amount of blood that's in a horse, and that was just shocking. But I wasn't like grossed out. I mean, we still finished. I was just like, there's a lot of blood. Like, people are gonna think I killed.
Are you well?
Yeah, you just lost a lot of blood. Yeah, but
I'm worried.
Yeah, I'm with it. I think this is tough. I think it's tough basically to mount charges here, but I think OP is being so fucking reasonable. She's like, listen, I'm gonna do it. I'm complying. It's your house. I'm complying, which I think is super fair. But I guess here's what I'd say, Shano. I don't think it's going to be super productive to hit people with this is internalized misogyny, because that is basically a character attack. What you're actually saying is you are not being very self-aware, and you lack the self-awareness to realize that what you're doing is a projection of hating women. And I just don't think that is I don't think it makes her an asshole, but I just don't think it's a good way to like try to convince or persuade someone or let them have that insight.
Yeah, I definitely think like and she's like a Gen Z, but like even millennials, like I think we do this oftentimes to our parents, is just because there's a lot more information out there. I think we're learning a lot more about like mental health and these kind of, words like internalized, etc. Fill in the blank. And so I do think we are oftentimes find ourselves in the positions where we're kind of like preaching to our parents. I know I definitely have been, and I know that it's not taken well because we seem like we're holier than thou.
Yes.
And so I think it would have gone further for her to just be like, Mom, you're really making me feel bad about it. I wasn't trying to, be disrespectful to anyone, but the way that you're like calling it disgusting is really making me feel bad. And really, you shouldn't be talking about women's periods like that. Something like that.
That was clean. No, that was clean. I like that. I like that a lot. Mrs. Steve Perry writes, it's just a common courtesy and hygienic to roll it all up before you put it in the garbage. When you have your own place, you can be nasty there. And I actually am really getting now the shame aspect here, because it's not unhygienic. It's in the fucking trash can. It's a little blood in the trash can. You would never say it's unhygienic if someone got it from fucking falling on their knee. Nasty? Like, it is really just blood, and it's not anywhere near as gross as poop. Like, get out of town. Like nobody would ever say snot is as gross as poop, like a ball. Do you have to cover your snot? Oh, I guess you need to cover your snot now. You can't have like a sticky tissue in the trash. Like, what? Nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah. And I mean, really, like, yes, like any bodily fluids, I'm not going to like sit here and say that I love, I would just like love to see everyone's period blood. Like, obviously I don't love really bodily fluids in general, but like if it's in the trash can and it's wrapped up, like I get it if the tampon's just sitting there on an open trash can and it's just sitting there with no toilet paper at all. I would be like, oh wow, that's a little alarming, but she's already being discreet about it, so fuck
it's
all
a covered
y'all.
Trash can. Egg 2106 28F. I always felt like it was a waste of TP to wrap them up, but I still wrap them up in one layer. My trash can doesn't have a lid, and used pads aren't nice to look at, but that's just my preference. I don't think it's unhygienic, and it's not the same as poop. I'm totally with that. Senorita Gorita 22, you're right. We got to make her a Reddit mod if she's not unhinged in this comment, huh? I think it's a waste of TP to wrap it up. Assuming there's a liner in the trash, it's not gross if a little is visible, unless there's little kiddos you don't want to explain your periods to yet. I feel like people need to grow up. It's blood. It shouldn't be looked at as more gross than putting a bloody teepee from a paper cut in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with that. I mean, some people can be squeamish about blood, but this really just there was an unnecessary emotionality. It seems like, yeah, you're disgusting vagina blood. Like, it's just, methinks the lady doth protest too much. It's like, I agree that it's internalized misogyny.
Yeah. So definitely NTI. I don't think you did anything wrong, especially because you said you would do the thing she asked, for fuck's sake.
Super reasonable. And guys, that is the app. Thank you so much for listening. Much love, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.